And now it's time for Fabulous Filmin' Friends. Welcome back to another blockbuster episode of your favorite show about movies, our 95th to be precise, and I do apologize for the delay in production, but kids, I'm a working man, and if you want a more reliable and steady stream of Triple F episodes, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube or Buzzsprout or Rumble or any of it. And by all means, tell your friends about us. So this week, we're going to make up for lost time and come out swinging to face not one, but two of Joel and Ethan Coen's finest features in their impressively long and ever-changing catalog of top hits. 2007's No Country for Old Men, starring Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Kelly MacDonald, Garret Dillahunt, Tess Harper, Stephen Root, and Woody Harrelson. With 2013's Inside Llewyn Davis, starring Oscar Isaac, Carey Mulligan, Justin Timberlake, Garrett Hedlund, Adam Driver, Max Casella, Stark Sands, F. Murray Abraham, and John Goodman. I'm your host, Gino Caputi, and this week I have 80% of my team of regulars back, starting with outdoorsman and frontier tech from Salt Lake City, Utah, no stranger to captive bolt stunners, the one and only Burton Brown. Yeah. Then there's my book-smart kid sister, Roseanne Caputi, who has read all of Cormac McCarthy's novels 10 times each, Texas hypnotherapist and professional coin flipper Joe Field, and the man whose peak years were spent sporting his signature Anton Chigurh Prince Valiant hairdo and black denim jacket with a guitar strapped to his back, Gordon Alex Robertson. Alex, warm us up with a little bit of old coot wit and wisdom as we contemplate old age, obsolescence, and death.
Oh, boy. Yeah, boy, you caught me. I'm so old, I have nothing to say.
Come on. No Barry Corbin for us?
I say here.
Okay.
You got no Barry Corbin for us?
Hold on here.
You're looking at it.
You're looking at it, boy. Yeah, this podcast ain't waiting on you. That's vanity. There. Okay, let's move on. Please.
Before we cross into...
I'm out of it.
All right. Enough of your excuses, quitter.
That's all you're going to get? Yes, I am.
Before we cross into a never-ending circle of physical pain, broken hearts, and dashed dreams, the synopses. In No Country for Old Men, the paths of Texas Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, a mysterious hitman named Anton Chigurh, and Vietnam veteran Lewin Moss collide when Moss stumbles upon $2 million in a briefcase at the site of a drug deal gone wrong. When Moss decides to keep the money, he finds himself in the crosshairs of the ruthless and relentless Chigurh, while Sheriff Bell struggles to keep up in a world spiraling beyond his control and comprehension. Inside Llewyn Davis chronicles a tumultuous but typical week in the life of its eponymous hero, an acerbic struggling folk singer in 1960s Greenwich Village. As Llewyn Davis ambles from gig to gig and friend's sofa to friend's sofa during a harsh New York winter with a quick, spirit-crushing sojourn to Chicago, he is faced with an unshakable truth that talent and artistic integrity may not be enough to break into an unforgiving music scene. All right. I'm going to get this out of the way because Roseanne's afraid we're going to spend a lot of time on it. In the canon of Coen Brothers films, it's always hard for me, at any rate, to place a top winner. My mind is always changing. I'm wondering, how do you rate, starting with you, Roseanne Caputi, how do you rate these two films? In not against each other, and I'm not saying which one's better, they're both great, but how do you rate these two in the canon of Coen Brothers movies?
Well, earlier you had said that you were going to ask people about their top 5 Coen Brothers movies. So I actually am prepared for that question.
Okay, go.
Okay. Well, and again, I think anytime you're rewatching a Coen Brothers movie, I think the magic of it is it becomes your favorite Coen Brothers movie. And that's what's kind of amazing about them. But so I would say that it's No Country for Old Men, Llewyn Davis, True Grit, Big Lebowski, and Raising Arizona.
All right. Alex, give us your, how do you rate these films? Where do they stand in your Coen Brothers list?
As of today, No Country for Old Men sits at the top of the pile. In fact, it's also in my canon of all-time greats. I'm gonna put. I will put that movie up with The Godfather 1 and 2.
Sure.
I have to say, following that, I'm going to say Raising Arizona because it was the first for me. And I do see a kinship between these two movies, as crazy as it sounds.
No, not
The
crazy
Big
at all.
Lebowski, Buster Scruggs, and I got to say Miller's Crossing. That's where I am right now.
Where does
And
Llewyn Davis sit? Where do you
I'd
think?
say it sits right now. I'd say it's right now it's right outside it's in the hallway, waiting to get in, and it might find its way in because this second time around watching it, it's well, I don't know what, but it really felt a little too close to home, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure
really
did.
was like wow. And kudos to the Coen brothers for giving us such an unlikable character that we still kind of root for in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, Llewyn Davis is, you want to punch him in the face half the time.
Yeah, funny, I don't. I'm
I
with him.
do.
Especially when he's with those union schmoes.
Oh, no. That's what I say, half the time. I mean, the people that care enough about him, he berates and cuts down, and it's just, oh my God, how can you do that? Biting the hand that literally feeds you,
Well,
Yes, we'll get into it, Alex.
that.
We'll get into it.
We will get into it. I understand, but still. Okay, anyway, next. On
Bert,
to the next.
Bert, what do you got? How do you feel about these films are you up to the minute on which Coen Brothers films are which, or do you not even think about it?
I don't typically think about it, but I'm looking at the list now. I missed that question or that thing to get my top 5, but
Yeah, sorry.
I only asked Roseanne.
yeah,
I know.
I see.
I didn't prep anybody. I didn't send out a questionnaire.
I like of these two, I like No Country for Old Men.
Uh-huh.
If we're choosing which one we like best of that group.
Did you like Inside Llewyn Davis?
I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay. I don't know. Maybe, some of these movies aren't intended to resolve and, give you that happy feeling, that other movies do. And this one just didn't do that. So I'm like, oh. Well. And I had no idea what to expect. I'd never heard of it. And I didn't know anything about it till you mentioned it. So I've only seen it that once. But
You're a singer, though. You've
know.
tried your hand at singing. Did you
Well,
ever
yeah,
Did you ever have a voice teacher tell you, you're fine, you're okay?
No.
No, everybody's
No.
kissing your butt.
Something like that. My number one would probably be Raising Arizona, though. I think that's the first VHS tape I bought when VHS first came out.
Wow. So
Raising
you are a
Arizona was
Coen
the
Brothers
first one.
fan.
I like that one, and I like The Big Lebowski. A lot of these have, and I like Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Yeah.
You guys might not, but
Oh, I think it's okay.
and True
I'd
Grit's
say it's
good.
one of their. Yeah, I love. True
I like
Grit.
a lot of them, so
Yeah.
I appreciate their work. I'll put it that way.
Well, yeah.
Sure. All right, Joe. What do you think? Where do these two stand? Are you familiar with the Coen Brothers?
I've seen some of their movies. It's funny because like a lot of them kind of similar to Bird. I'm like, oh, that was a Coen Brothers movie. Yeah, duh. I didn't realize that. But like, if I had to go with my top 5, I'd put Big Lebowski at number 1. If only because it started a lifelong love of White Russians for me.
And you got the beard to do it.
Yeah, I can't look at a rug and not think that it ties the whole room together.
Yeah.
So I put that at 1. I also really love True Grit, so that'd be 2 for me. No Country for Old Men would be at 3. I only saw it once, but I did enjoy Hail Caesar for all of its ridiculousness. And then I'd probably put Inside Llewyn Davis after that, number 5.
Oh, okay. So it's up there, yeah. No, it's always shifting. I don't even know. So I guess mine's similar to Alex's. I guess I think Raising Arizona, or I guess No Country for Old Men and Raising Rooms. I'll just copy Alex. Except I think I got Hail Caesar. No, I can't because it's tough because I think after Big Lebowski, I would put. Geez, it's either Hail Caesar or True Grit. I can't decide. That's the thing. Roseanne's right. It changes on when I watch each film. I love Hail Caesar. I think Hail Caesar's. We talked about it already on this podcast. It's a deceptively simple film, but it's got some depth to it that people don't. Everybody's overlooked. But this film, I just think it's Inside Llewyn Davis is just so painfully on point, especially if you're creative, and just to have that pour your soul out in front of a guy who just says, I don't see a lot of money in you. that cuts deep. If you've ever been an actor or any sort of creative, that cuts deep. So
I think if you've just been a human and been evaluated by other humans, it cuts deep. Like I'm not trying to take away from you as a creative person, but I'm just like, man, it just cuts deep knowing.
Yeah.
Knowing you're not it.
Assessing you as shave your beard, stab of the sun.
Right.
Yeah.
Sing
back up.
Yeah.
Sing harmony.
Yeah. Very comfortable with harmonies.
Yeah.
I mean, and then also just reducing your art to $$ sign.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's I just think it's a beautiful film. Again, both films will start into it, but I'll just say what I like best about both films. Both films are sort of them not being silly and just the economy of script writing and visual storytelling, and letting the circumstances and let the actors act without talking. In both films, I think they're just so well acted without anybody acting. You know, they're sparse dialogue, and none of it is extraneous. Alex Robertson, would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
What do you like best about each film?
What do I like best about each film? Well,
Yeah.
I think what you piggybacking on what you said about that tight filmmaking. One thing about No Country for Old Men that really came across this last viewing is the usual loquacious characters that we find in Coen Brothers movies are almost absent. In fact, talking is almost seen as a weakness. I think of that great scene between the only scene between Llewellyn Moss and Carson Wells. Well, you sure talk more than he does. I'll give him points for that.
Yeah.
But
And Woody Harrelson doesn't seem particularly big mouth in that scene.
he's not. He's not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But
Which is more than Josh Brolin wants to hear.
more than he wants to hear, more than he cares to hear. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think whatever they did, the years, how far into their career was it before they made No Country for Old Men? And you really see the maturity in the filmmaking. I mean, it almost feels effortless. Like everything, any mistake they'd made up to this point is gone.
Well, this
And
was
they
coming
just-
off the heels of The Lady Killers.
And
so
that's
they
just
made-
it. It was-
they
it-
made,
they made that series of those series.
They made
of,
two films. So
really
what's the George Clooney film called?
Intolerable Cruelty.
Intolerable Cruelty, which
Yeah.
just felt like fluff. And then, I mean, it had some funny
I was
moments,
going
but
to say some decent scenes.
some funny moments.
Well,
But
and Lady Killers made no sense. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
you're trying to do what was it, the Ealing Studio?
yeah,
You're not even coming close. And Tom
Yeah.
Hanks was so, unwelcomed in that movie as far as I was
it
concerned.
just was a bad idea.
It was a bad idea. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think it has to happen. I think, any filmmaker has to just purge, whatever, like you say, that silliness, get it out, because that was anything but silly.
Yeah,
No Country for Old Men. And it still has an impact today. I mean, it still feels like it was made today. There's a real timeless quality about it.
okay. Bert, what do you say the best thing about each film is?
Visually, on No Country for Old Men, visually it was interesting, and it flowed. It didn't jump around too much. where it confused me. I understood what was happening when they were jumping back to the cops or jumping back to what was his? It wasn't Llewyn in this one. It was like Llewellyn or something like that. I don't know.
It's Llewellyn Moss and Llewyn Davis. I think they just like the double L combo.
Double L combo somewhere.
Well, Llewellyn Moss is Cormac McCarthy's name.
I figured that was some tribute to somebody, but I, when they were bouncing around, I could
tribute to you, Bert.
Of it.
You seem like Llewellyn Moss.
Well, I don't know about that.
It's the man of the earth, a hunter, a survivor.
Well, I would hope so. I haven't tested that, and I don't want to test that.
Yeah,
but I'm prepared.
Good deal.
No, and then the other one, it kept my interest because I had no idea what was happening, and I didn't know what to expect. I did read that it was a week in the life, basically. A week in the life of this guy. I didn't understand. I didn't know it was going to circle back. It was like, oh, this is how he got here story. Where he gets punched in the alley at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of how I was at the end. I just didn't understand that that's what was happening, but it was still.
You weren't supposed to.
Oh, well, now I blew it for everybody. Spoilers, I guess.
No.
The music was decent. I didn't really like that one that they thought was going to be popular, but this was 1961. So I don't know what was popular in 1961. That was before I was born. But I thought his songs were good. Did I see dollar signs? Well, I wasn't looking for them. When he was singing, but I thought, well, that was pretty good. When he's doing his gigs in the bar or wherever he is, wherever they did those folk songs. But the thing I didn't like was, I'm like, why are all these folk singers so angry and cursing all the time? That was the thing that took me off guard. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll get into more of it later, I'm sure, whether I'll recommend it or not. But it was just he was hard to like, so it was hard to get into. On the, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, but
on the Inside Llewellyn, Inside Llewyn Davis. He was hard to like.
But that's, I mean, you have to
on
understand
purpose.
That's part of the point. It's not
right.
that. It's not like, boy, he's...
But he's supposed to, I don't know, movies are supposed to have the protagonist, which you're supposed to root for, and then...
Yeah, but I've watched a lot of Tom Cruise movies where you're supposed to root for him, and I still found him wildly unlikable, as opposed to this, where I find him, because it's such a wonderful performance, that it's great. But
all right, Joe, you're up. Going around the table. What do you like about each film?
So one thing I think is really... One thing I really liked about No Country for Old Men, which is probably a weird thing, is that how not just sort of tightly written it is, but also there's almost no music.
Right.
Normally, I like a good soundtrack, as much as the next person, but I think that the kind of silence and also the small amount of dialogue, really letting people act, the quietness of everything really amped up some of the thriller elements, but also did a good job of kind of making you feel less like you're watching a movie and more like you're experiencing this person's actual life events.
Right.
And
let me just break in this for a second. The sound design is incredible.
Sound design is really good, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything from the different squeaks on the floorboards as people are moving around,
the phone ringing down the hall.
Yeah, and at certain points the phone ringing so loud that I'm practically jumping in my seat because I'm like, that was a really quiet scene. And then, so I think that I think that helped to hammer home this sort of idea of kind of being alone, of there isn't going to be someone who saves the situation in the end. Like, it's not a fabrication, in other words. Like, it feels like this is something real that's going on, and it may not end the way that you want it to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. So I think that part of it was something I really enjoyed. I think for the other film, it's interesting because I think it's one that I need to rewatch, because I feel like I would enjoy it a lot more on a second viewing than the first time. But I think that it's one thing that I really like is sort of it's paying a lot of homage to creative types. I do think, and specifically how people view it from the outside looking in, but then also all the problems within any given industry. I mean, living day to day, and you end up going to a friend's dinner party who you're going to crash on their couch, and the first thing they come up with is like, man, you creative types have it so lucky. All you got to do is make one smash hit and you're set for life.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, sure.
Right.
That's the easy
Coupled
thing,
with the
sure.
pain that he sold out.
Signed away his royalties so he
so
could
he
pay
could
for his
pay for an
girlfriend's
abortion.
Yeah.
of his
Yeah.
friend's wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I think that for that, it's like it does a good job of balancing some of the sort of the black comedy with some of the actually tragic elements of like being able to make good music and good art that outside of a very small group of people, nobody is going to care about.
Right.
So yeah, I like that about the movie.
No, it's artistic integrity doesn't matter, which that's the point of the Mr. Kennedy song. If I got to spell it out why it's so awful, because it's supposed to be a dumb studio piece of crap.
Right, but don't we have at the end of the movie, so to speak, the circular story, kind of his own version of Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
We do see we're introduced to Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
So, and just sort of that it is a peculiar, well done moment, because he would become. I mean, he would achieve what no other folk artist ever achieved, that kind of superstar status.
Right.
He really was. If you could say, was there ever a superstar in folk music? Yeah, probably Bob Dylan. Even
Sure,
before he went electric, those first 4 or 5 albums of his, they're landmarks.
Huh.
I mean, there was just something about him. But there's Llewyn Davis, who does have the talent and the passion. But what is it? What is it that prevents him? Is it just his sense of timing? Is it his ego? There's certainly a lot of that.
He's unlikable.
He's unlike exactly, and even that whole thing about when he's signing the contract for, hey, Mr. Kennedy, if you do sign it, sure, we'll give you a check right now. You just do it as an independent contractor. You just won't get any royalties, and and he's already dismissed this song.
He doesn't think. He absolutely doesn't think it matters.
Who wrote this song? Great moment for Justin Timberlake. I did. I did.
Wow, you really captured his essence right just then. All right, Roseanne, lay it on us. What do you like about both films? Each film.
Well, what I like about each film is, essentially the same, which is they're like these great companions to being a human, like I just find a lot of solace in them. And I know that sounds stupid. Like, why would you find solace, I guess, in No Country for Old Men or something like that? But I just think the questions or the things that it makes me think about are the things that are worth thinking about. So even just like, I could watch that scene where Tommy Lee Jones talks about his dream about that horn of fire, and again, just the fight of light against darkness and what that even means, and just like how the terra firma reflects, what happens in this, how the cosmos were even made, and how you had to go through whatever, a billion years of hydrogen and opaque darkness for the light to come out. And then just thinking about that struggle on planet Earth with Texas lawmen. I just think the ideas are huge in this like very small, specific time frame, and I
Well,
think
yeah.
Coen brothers excel at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this leads into the okay. So what about Llewyn Davis? And then we can get into the headier themes of it all.
Okay, but I do think Llewyn Davis is not unlike that. Like, yeah, it's about artistic integrity and selling out and things like this, but also, again, what it is to be your best self and have that rejected. Like when you are your best and when you are the most connected, just like Tommy Lee Jones saying, I always thought when I was older that God would come into my life.
Right.
And in a sense, I think Llewyn Davis expected the same. But that almost like the God in him is rejected because fine, he's unlikable, but I don't think that's entirely it. I think that's too easy of a thing. It's just like, it's just one of those things. There's as much about chance and happenstance in this film in Llewyn Davis as there are in No Country for Old Men.
No, I mean,
chance is.
I'm gonna point fingers here, but Alec Baldwin is unlikable.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
many people are unlikable.
He's
right.
a total unlikable asshole.
So I don't find
killed
it
somebody.
Bad. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Not, and so I don't think it's about that. I think it's just about.
Well, but it is in comparison to what's his face, the Broadway guy who the private whatever. Troy is likable in the world. Yeah. Troy is
people
wicked,
like him,
right? Troy represents
like,
what everybody wants to see. He's that happy ending you want, Bert. Troy,
he's what folk music looks like.
Yeah,
he's what you
likable,
want.
He's disciplined.
He's the Kingston Trio wrapped up in one. He really is.
Right. People love him, but he's kind of vapid. I mean, in Llewyn Davis's mind, I guess, you know.
But in such a likable way. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
Even the way when he's just sitting there eating that. I've never seen a bowl of cereal consumed in such a compelling way before. Like, excuse me.
See, I don't know. This is maybe a problem of mine because I'm also like maybe an unlikable, not very nice person. But everyone who Llewyn Davis hates, I hate. So I'm like, God, this fucking Troy. Cereal.
I don't hate John Goodman.
Sucks.
No.
There's no way you can hate John Goodman. And I don't hate Abraham. I love those guys.
Yeah.
No.
I sure hate Troy.
I don't. I think it's funny. I think
obviously it's funny, but what he represents to Llewyn Davis, I'm just like, he sure does.
Well, I do hate when he goes, that was very good.
That was very good.
That was very
Everybody
good.
asks me that. Like, no shit. Of course everyone asks you that. It's Elvis.
Yeah.
No, it's that sort of stupid in the know, he's part of my club, Private Presley reference is pretty freaking irritating. No, the performances in the movie, just like in No Country for Old Men, are I don't, again, Ethan Phillips, Star Trek Voyager, even he's awesome. You know, do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
The old guy in the boot store.
The Finkelsteins or whatever.
Gorfiends.
The Gorfiends. The
okay. Yeah.
Oh wait, that guy. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other guy from.
Yeah.
No,
we were talking about.
It took me a while to figure out where I knew him from, but I'm like, wait.
The Coen brothers.
But
The
Coen
brothers, they did it in Hail Caesar. They do it a lot. They have a knack of grabbing TV schmoes and elevating them and making them awesome. And they do it with so many actors, and they do it with Ethan Phillips, who I'm sure is a fine actor. Sure, he's a good Broadway actor and all that, but on Star Trek Voyager, he was nothing but irritating, and he's really good in Inside Llewyn Davis.
I'm just thrilled about. Only because, and I know we'll talk about acting, but Stephen Root, I forget. Because, you know, I've been watching a lot of stuff with my 14-year-old son, like Dodgeball and Office Space or whatever. I forget what a, unbelievably great dick he plays. And his hairdo and everything. I'm like,
mustache, the handlebar?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's another actor who...
He's amazing.
He's never really gotten his due in terms of, that guy can do he can do anything. He really can. When you think of Office Space and all the things he does. No, and then you see him in this playing sort of this shady Texas drug dealer,
Yeah.
corporate drug dealer,
Corporate drug dealer.
totally awesome. Yeah,
And just filling it out entirely. I was like, man. I mean, and I feel that way about everyone's performance, but his hair took it to the next level. I'm just like, he's great. He's American tribute to Stephen Root is what I'm going to campaign for.
I'm sure Alex, you'll love him in Buster Scruggs.
Sure.
he's
He's
pretty awesome in
entertaining.
that.
He is. But no. I have to agree with Roseanne that it was an unexpected Stephen Root performance, and it was a pleasant surprise to see Stephen play. Okay, for up until this point, he's been the funny guy, the fall guy. Even what was the TV show that he was on? It was sort of like
News Radio.
News Radio. He was a mirrored image of that guy, but the funnier version, the more palatable version. This is like that.
But what a
the
great
dark
swinging dick scene between he and Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson,
Like,
yeah.
just like, what a crackling scene between two actors.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, there's a lot of great. No, it's okay.
there's so many great things. Yeah.
A lot of great tension built up in those scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a dull moment in that movie.
Well, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot on what it means, but I'm gonna work through this because I do grapple with Tommy Lee Jones's last monologue every time I watch it. I think I got it, and then it sort of eludes me because I feel like, don't you? I guess he's talking about his father and tradition, and he wakes up, and that means he's in this world of harshness and sort of mundane reality and evil that he can't cope with, and he's living in am I right? He's living in this sort of mythic idea of Texas lawmen where it's not there anymore. Is that the point?
If it was ever there. Like,
If it
that's
was.
the big thing too.
But it was there in his mind, I think, when he talks about it.
But the opening line is, "I used to love to hear the old guys talk."
Yeah, never pulled their gun out. In fact, I don't think he holsters his gun until he's at the hotel where Llewyn is killed. The first time we see him draw his gun.
Okay, but Barry Corbin basically says it's all been hogwash.
It's all been hogwash.
He has been believing this mythology for no reason.
Well, in that scene,
because of that, he shouldn't be quitting because there was never a good time.
Right.
So he's being a coward by saying, like, I'm outmatched or things are different. He and that other Texas lawman, like, commiserating about how things are so different. And Barry Corbin saying the ultimate truth, which is, no, they're not.
No, they're not. It's never been any different. It's never been
always
any
been
different.
hard.
And that's very similar to Blood Meridian, actually. So it must be the through line.
Yeah, I think it is. Because the Barry Corbin scene, I really do think is the crux of the movie, the message of the movie. And that line that he has when he goes, "This country's hard on people. It ain't all waiting for you." That's vanity. That's like a gut punch. That's like you're telling the idealistic young man who just lives in this world, that Jesus is going to come and wave his magic wand and everything's going to be fine. Then you got to tell him the reality. It's like, I wish it were that way, but here's the reality.
Also, my favorite thing of, God, God doesn't think any more, of me than I do. And he's just like, you don't know what he thinks.
That's the thing.
And I
exactly.
think that's such a perfect thing. And just
and
it takes us to Anton Chigurh as well, which is just like Anton Chigurh is so singular that he's like, he is the razor's edge between good and evil almost. And I feel like that no one knowing what he thinks is a similar theme. Anyway, Joe, what's your face saying? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm yammering.
No. I mean, I was kind of thinking about Anton Chigurh, especially. I think he kind of not just straddling the line between like good and evil, but he's almost like a force of nature. Like people can confront him, and it's like, oh, what happened? Like he survives every encounter. Yes, he sustains injuries, but for the most part, he's unfazed by them. He's like, oh, I can handle this, no big deal. And I feel like it's kind of, and I feel like to some extent he views himself very much as like this force of nature. Like, I'm not entirely, like, I know that I've seen some commentary saying like that the whole coin toss thing is to kind of absolve himself of guilt for killing people and things, or to leave it up to chance. But I'm not entirely convinced that that's the
I think
case.
that's bullshit. I think he has
Yeah.
no ego. I think so. That's why he just goes through and does exactly what he needs to do, because
Yeah.
there's no ego and no guilt. He just.
Well,
Well, somebody,
he's-
I don't know if this helps, but there was an analysis that said he is a character that he takes no agency, almost as if I absolve myself. It's like, look, it's even when he's telling Kelly MacDonald, it's not me. Look, your husband, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for your husband, kind of thing. But, he,
I made a promise.
I made a promise. Yeah. Well, as Woody Harrelson says, he's a man of principle. What kind of principles? I don't know. It's beyond you and me.
Well, and the reason that everyone keeps saying, "Oh, like you're crazy" and things like that is because he's not seeking the same things that everyone else in the story is.
Well, he's beyond lunatic. I think it would be wrong to call him a lunatic. I mean,
There's nothing crazy about what he's doing.
No, there isn't. Not that we condone it, listeners. Don't
I'm
go
not
out there
saying
flipping
that.
coins.
I'm just saying, it's terrifying, but so are hurricanes. So are,
Yeah.
diseases.
No, it's
or
crazy.
cancer.
Him, what he does to the guy with the chickens and what he does to the guy on the side of the road. He doesn't have to kill them. He just does.
He just does. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think
I
that's
don't feel it's crazy. I'm with.
It's
Ed
not
Tom
practical.
Bell.
It's not practical. If he lets the store owner go, he could certainly let any of them go. I think he is psychotic. I mean, he is.
There is. Well,
I
there
think
are.
he's got his own.
Psychotic is arbitrary.
Yeah,
if
but
that's the
you can't say
definition.
that he's just a principled guy. He's pretty
I'm not
evil.
saying he is. I'm just saying.
Well, I think
don't
in
think
many
he has
ways.
an ego, and I think he's arbitrary.
I think in
Like
many ways.
cancer.
I think he's like Ed Tom Bell in a way.
Sure, same.
When Ed Tom Bell tells Garret Dillahunt at the beginning, when it's that's very linear, Sheriff. Well, age flattens a man. I mean, he's gotten to the point where the simplest answer is the most obvious answer. And Anton Chigurh, the simplest answer is, I killed a guy. Why not? I mean...
I wanted his truck.
I wanted his truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think also, I think there's something to be said for his choice of weapon. He's using something that's meant to kill cattle.
Yeah.
Or at least stun them. And I think that, I don't think he views people as much more than that. And I think that sort of his last scene in the movie is sort of intentionally showing that it's not just he's this untouchable, unbeatable person. He could die at any moment, from something completely random. He had the green light,
Yeah.
but a car still crashes into him. Seemingly random chance, he gets really beat up
Yeah.
and staggers off. I think it's just that reminder that he isn't the only one who's going to be able to mete out the horribleness of life.
Right.
He's also going to sometimes be the victim of it too.
I don't think, Joe, I think you're right about the cattle thing for sure, but I don't think he values his own life that much more than he does theirs.
Well, that's true. That's for sure.
And
Because
so-
he doesn't. There's no ego, and he never holds it against Llewellyn Moss.
For sure.
He doesn't hold it against him. He's just like, I'm going to kill you.
Or
I'm not,
Carson Wells.
he's not mad at him.
for
He's
coming
not,
after
yeah,
him.
he's not mad at him for shooting him. It's just the way it is. But I'm still going to kill you and your wife.
Right.
Yeah. No,
or
that's
I won't kill your wife, but this, and again, it's Llewellyn who has the ego that gets his wife killed.
Yeah.
Well,
He
again,
thinks he can beat him.
I side with what's her face? What's her name? What's her character name? I forgot already.
Carla Jean.
Carla Jean.
Carla Jean.
I side with her. She goes, it's not exactly how you say.
Yeah.
It's on you. It's your decision. You're just saying that. I side with her on that because it is in his hands. He is crazy. I'm sorry. There is no real or moral code he's really following. He's just a nut.
I'm not saying moral.
Yeah.
I'm just saying code.
Well, his code is arbitrary, I think.
Right, but the thing is,
But it is in his
reason
hands. He could not kill her.
Sure, he could he could not kill Llewyn. He could take the money and take it back to his guy, and it would all be fine. That's
Right.
100% the truth. It's just not how he does business. And the thing that I guess I'm why I'm resisting calling him a psycho, and this is the truth. In any other situation, I would, but just because he is so evidently this metaphor for how humans view death, that they feel like they can talk themselves out of it, that they always approach it the same. And I think that line when he says, if the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule, like, is one of the best lines in the whole movie when he's really, I mean, I'm just like, that's religion, that's government, that's all the things we think keep us safe.
Right.
And so that,
But what was,
I'm not on his
I'm a
side.
little
I think
confused.
he's a
I'm
psycho.
a little confused by
obviously.
what is Woody Harrelson's rule that he's talking about. That scene, I'll admit, I'm a dunderhead. I don't get it. What does he mean by? I was like, well, what rule is Woody Harrelson following?
I do
Logic.
think, yes, logic. Yes.
The rule of logic.
The rule of, I'm gonna get this for the guy that paid me to get the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a sense, Woody Harrelson is a numbers man when he admits, I'm just a day trader. I'm a day trader. He is that business side. I mean, it's
and
like
he's a retired Army colonel.
He's
he's
a retired.
But like rank
and discipline and regiment, and yes, everything is done in a certain way. Yeah, I agree. I
You know what I gleaned on this one is it never really occurred to me, but Llewyn Moss is going back to Carson. I never thought about it until this time I saw it. He calls Carson probably to give up and give the money. He's probably like going to take a little bit of money and then cut his losses. And that's this is what leads me to Bert, I haven't let you talk. Any thoughts on this? Is it registering or I mean,
well,
it's not.
Do I think he's crazy?
It's not a pointless movie.
True. I just saw him sort of as this, not really hitman, but he's in the recovery business. Recover what I lost, and he's paid to do it. And then apparently so is Woody Harrelson. They just go about it different ways. I'm sure they both kill people without thinking about it. The Chigurh guy just tends to, kill unnecessarily or, and it's not to eliminate witnesses because he lets some live. So it's not that motive. He just does it. I mean, certainly he does it in a, like when he accidentally opens the hotel room of the other drug dealers or whatever they were, when he thought it was a different room and they were shooting at him. So he shoots back and kills all four of them. That's one. No,
I don't think he thinks it's a different room. I think he knows exactly what he's doing in that scene. He knows. That's why he's prepared for them.
You talking about the first time we see?
When he
but him killing them, to me, is not the same as him killing the guy he steals a car from.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's a little. That's where it's just on a whim. He's like, well, what do I feel like today? Or do I have enough ammo today? I have a question
to all of you. Why does he kill the bosses out in the field, out in the sort of the OK Corral scene, basically?
I thought they were just a complication.
He gets the tracker and he gets the tracker and he shoots them. Well, I've never understood.
He got what he needed. I 100% feel that way.
But he's still hired by.
Did we lose Joe Field?
No, Joe's here.
He's still there.
Joe, are you here?
I think
Joe's here.
You're
He's
frozen
down there.
on my screen.
Well, I think you can tie it into the scene when he shoots Stephen Root. And he says, he has that line about, when the accountant says he just felt, or he did feel, that it was better if we had more people involved. And he goes, no, that's foolish.
That one I understand. I don't understand why
you picked the right tool. And I don't know if that's how it is. I mean,
well, I didn't understand those two guys in suits to be who hired him. I thought they were also hired gun, not necessarily guns, but hired organizers. Like they weren't the top guys. Maybe they were.
They're Stephen Root's men.
Yeah. Okay. And I just think my impression was they just annoyed him.
That's the other possibility.
That's my impression.
And that's probably right.
Remember that first scene? The guy gets out of the car. Mine riding bitch. Yeah. I mean, it is like an insult in a way.
Yeah.
You've got these swinging dicks in the car, and he's just, okay. And if anything about what we learn about Anton Chigurh is he's never flustered throughout the movie. Everything is so measured in what he does.
Yeah.
He never has to run for anybody. He never has to overreact or scream or yell.
Well,
I mean,
this
it's
wasn't the
almost-
first time I saw it, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And I was still like, I'd forgotten a lot of it. So I didn't know what to expect. And, it was kind of like, oh, is he going to kill these people? Or the kids roll up on the bike. Oh no, or is he going to kill those kids too?
Well, that's the beauty of the characters. You're always, because they set it up so graphically in the first scene.
Well,
When
even
he
the
kills
manager of
the
the
deputy.
trailer park.
But when
He
he kills
starts
the
to advance toward her at one point.
Yeah. No, but when he kills the deputy, they set it
Yeah.
up. I mean, they set up two horrific murders. And I don't know if I haven't read the book. You two have read the book. Who's read the book? Has everybody read the book except me? So Roseanne and Alex. Is it set up the same way? He just kills these two horrific murders?
Maybe Roseanne remembers, but if I remember correctly, at the beginning of the movie, Chigurh allows himself to get arrested, almost as an experiment to see how he would escape, like it's a game.
I don't remember it being a game. I don't remember it going into a lot of the thought about him, just because I know that there's way more like Tom Bell narrative and whatever. So I just figured, again, it was one of those things that happened, and he was going to get himself out of the situation however.
Yeah.
Well, the point being, though, he's set up to be a ruthless bastard. So so you always fear he's gonna, whoever he comes up against, and then
anybody could die.
He kills those two cartel or Texas cartel guys ruthlessly, and you're going, why did he kill them? They hired him.
Well, but then if we go back to the death of the deputy at the beginning, remember, as he's draining the life out of this guy, there's almost a look of ecstasy in his
Oh,
face.
yeah, sure.
I
Totally.
mean,
For sure.
that,
for sure. While he's killing him, there's this psychotic look of sexual pleasure from it.
Right. And then
it's one of the worst scenes ever in a film. People take it for granted because the Coen brothers masterfully undercut it with humor. But if it wasn't if it didn't have all this great truth and humor and excitement, we would just think it's a horror movie, because it comes off like a horror movie at first, and then it sort of settles into a more thriller like film. But or it's a sort of an amalgamation. You've got a chase, you've got like sort of deadpan humor. But
yes, you have a suitcase full of money, I guess, but it doesn't feel like one of those movies.
Right. No, it's all the Coen brothers movies kind of wrapped up into one, honestly. It feels like Raising Arizona. It has the same feeling of Raising Arizona or Fargo, that sort of a plan gone wrong because of one stupid action.
action, yeah.
Well, I would say elements. It has the same elements and not the same feeling. Because the feeling,
I think it still feels like a Coen brothers movie. It feels leaner and more mature, but it still feels like a graduation from their other movies. No?
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's in the dialogue. As subtle as the dialogue is, there are, if I could say, Coenisms, the way they talk.
A lot of that is the book.
But how much of it too? Maybe that's why they were maybe that was the draw to the book. Because
I think so. That's the same reason why they did True Grit. Because you think True Grit that they wrote most of this dialogue, and I've read True Grit like 2 times, and it is 99% Charles Portis's dialogue. So I think they're just attracted to a certain way. Anyway.
I think it was. I think it was. It was a meeting that was inevitable. At some point in their careers, Cormac McCarthy was going to come across the path of the Coen brothers. And you can go all the way back to Raising Arizona, maybe even Blood Simple, but Raising Arizona, and see a lot of those elements. They seem to share that this view on life. Yeah. That life is, think about Nicolas Cage's great line, which is from Night of the Hunter. No, Night of the Hunter, when he wakes up after the nightmare, sometimes it's a hard place on little folk or little creatures.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing that Lillian Gish says, you know, and that idea. And we see it all throughout No Country for Old Men. I mean, Barry Corbin, this country's hard on people. It's just...
Shifting gears a little, what is the equivalent sort of epiphany or key moment in Llewyn Davis?
Did we establish what the key moment or epiphany
Yeah,
was?
Barry Corbin
okay.
says this. Alex just said it. This country is hard on people. What's that sort of sums it up moment in Llewyn Davis? Joe, any thoughts?
I don't know if, I mean, epiphany moment, it's hard. I feel like, I feel like one of those is the line that we've already talked about, which is, you know, I don't see much money in it. You know, like hitting that sort of bottom line, that sense of, like, he wasn't making much money before, so he wasn't actually seeing much money with his work. But also having it reduced from this person who's supposed to be able to listen to music and figure out whether or not it's worth anything. I feel like that kind of... It kind of brings things to a harsh reality. And it's not accidental that the place where he goes to is the Gate of Horn. You know, as a nice sort of reference. But like it's like, yeah, that's where you go to have your great epiphanies for things. That's, you know, it's this is theoretically where you're getting your divine inspiration from, and the big message that you're getting is you're not going to make it, basically.
Don't you think F. Murray Abraham though does feel like an extension of his own agent? Like, in a sense that his own agent doesn't really care and doesn't really see the value of him.
For sure.
And it just feels like he's just another disappointment in a world of hope. You know, like F. Murray Abraham, in a way, it's not it's a soul crushing journey, but at the same time, F. Murray Abraham's just sort of more of the same. You know, I think.
Well, for sure, except Mel is just like, well, they have to get used to as a solo act. And of course, he's like, no one cared about us as the duo. It's not the straight
And then F. Murray
re-education.
Abraham says, hey, I'm putting together a trio.
Right.
You know, it just seems like
Stay out of the
music
sun.
business, it's all the same
But
sort
also
of
like, oh
plot
yeah,
hoppers.
makes sense. Get back with your partner. So it's two people saying the opposite thing that's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, which is you're not good enough.
You're not good enough. But also,
By yourself, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
by yourself and together. And again,
think
the fact it can't be ignored that Mike Timlin did jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
And so I think if we're talking about catharsis or whatever points, I do, well, in a sense, the car ride I think is a journey, because where at the drive back and him just admitting how tired he is, and he's like, I thought a night of sleep would do it, and just that he in fact is also ready to give up. And I didn't realize that Joanne, she slept with what's his name so he could play the gaslight. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think.
Oh yeah, Carey Mulligan.
Carey Mulligan sleeps with Max Casella to get him that gig, because. Anyway, but I just think him admitting defeat is in the face of all of that, like almost like he's driving home to admit it.
But remember, there's
think
that
it's something like
one
that.
moment after his rejection from Bud Grossman. You know, and the way he seems to, I don't know if he accepts it. You know, it's very abrupt. But as he's driving back, he hitches the ride. And that scene where he's staring at the distant lights of Akron, knowing that's where his illegitimate son is.
Sure.
And it's kind of like, maybe, like at the beginning of No Country for Old Men, it's like I'm following the blood trail of my prey, and then I see this other blood trail. Well, I'm going to follow, what I was following originally, then we don't have a story. I don't know. What would happen if Llewyn just decided, maybe enough running. Let's just go and drop me
I
off in
think
Akron.
that's where he's headed, just like that he's seeing it, that he's watching the animal limp into the forest, and his face is registering this pain, and it registers the same amount of pain, more so when he's driving past Akron, just like all these different things, and sort of all the trouble and pain that he's wrought. And as he's driving home, he does seem to be atoning. He tells
Atoning. But he still
Joan-
goes home. He still goes back to New York.
He does, because where else do you go? But he tells her that he's sorry. He tells her that he loves her, and he goes back. When he comes back, he's telling everyone how sorry he is.
Yeah. His father.
It is different.
His father. The father scene, which is
Tough.
it's a tough scene for sure.
tough one.
It is.
It's about as disappointing and harrowing as anything Anton Chigurh does.
Yeah.
Just the arbitrariness of just like that beautiful scene, him looking to the side and then just shitting himself, and just like rough.
That's like that's right out of 5 Easy Pieces.
Sure.
When Jack Nicholson, tries to. In fact, there's a bit of Hal Ashby in this movie too. I mean, I can't help but think of The Last Detail when I watch this movie, because the only other movie I can think of that makes me feel cold all throughout the movie is The Last Detail.
I've
That
never seen
grim-
it, but Llewyn Davis definitely makes me feel cold.
Oh, you watch The Last Detail, every scene grim. You're in the dead of winter on the East Coast. Grim, dead trees, nothing feels. I mean, when Jack Nicholson, and I'm getting off topic, but when they're trying to roast weenies in a park and it's frozen, Llewyn Davis, I mean, it's just nothing, and nothing says grim portents.
Chicago.
Yeah,
The
Chicago.
shoe. My God, the shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way they went after that look, I guess the cinematographer, Frenchman, his inspiration was the cover of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. Those muted colors. The muted colors.
Well, I'd say it's a better, and it's almost a better looking film than No Country for Old Men.
Oh, it's a great looking
they're
film
both
in its own way.
Extremely great looking films.
Yeah.
But
they
in
both
some
have a
ways,
bleakness. They both have that bleak environment in their own way.
But there is this sort of beautiful use of light and shadow, much more in Inside Llewyn Davis. Just that scene with the Bud Grossman, just in that like hall with the harsh light as he comes out of the office. But it just the trails off into the shadow. I think it's a gorgeous looking film. I mean, even the car scene with John Goodman,
Looks
as
beautiful.
depressing as it looks, it still sort of glows.
Mm-hmm.
But you feel every moment too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is. You just, you even welcome the warmth of the car. Being inside, how many of us have been inside a car with the heat just blasting? At least I'm in the car. I have no idea where I'm going, but I'm not cold.
With these two unbelievably ridiculous, terrifying people, but at least it's warm.
It's warm.
Yeah.
I'll
I really do feel that. But I maintain the ride back and his apology journey.
That's still not the movie, though.
What do you mean?
Well, because
you asked what.
No, I know, but I'm trying to think of when does it all come into focus? Is it Ulysses? What's the line that brings us all into focus as he's going to stay in this rut? Versus just like this is pride talking. You're just acting like it's all on you when it's not. It's always been like this. Where is the line where we realize he's just going to keep on doing what he's doing? Is it when he says, "Where's your hay bale, Betty?" or whatever? What's the line where we go, "Okay, this guy's stuck"?
He says folk music is the worst,
That's
or whatever.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
He says it.
Yeah.
After he says my favorite line in all of creation for Mix and Grandma Moses.
Right.
And then he's like, folk music is terrible, the worst, or fuck folk music, whatever he says.
Yeah.
And then.
What about Burton and Joe? Let's see what they have to say, because I'm confused too. I'm like, well, where all
right, Joe. Sorry, you say there's no money in you, but I agree that's sort of that's where all his hopes get dashed. But his sort of circular staying in this cycle, this rut of failure. Au revoir. that's the last shot of the movie. Of like, goodbye, Hick. Haha. He's sort of still staying in his own sort of little mental fortress. Thoughts?
I mean, I think also, if you want another line, it's there's a guy out back waiting for you. Said he's your friend. Which I think echoed, obviously from the beginning to the end. It's like, okay, then as viewers, it's like, yeah, we know what's gonna happen next, and I think the idea is like he's gonna continuously go up there, perform, and get kicked to the ground,
Right.
and just beaten up and left in an alleyway, and then he'll have to figure things out after that. And I think for me, that's sort of where I see like, oh, okay, yeah, this is just one giant circle.
Yeah.
And I think, for what it's worth, also before that, even when he mentions the line about like, what was it? What folk music is. If it was never popular,
If it's
but it doesn't
not
go
new
away.
And it never gets old.
That's
It's
what
folk
it is. Yeah.
music.
And I think that the idea is like, okay, that's
his
his
whole
story
life.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I think you might. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Bert, thoughts?
I couldn't identify any specific line. I think it's just his actions, that they show after his rejection. He goes back to, I don't know, was that New York or Chicago, wherever
Yeah,
it
no,
was.
he goes back to New York.
Yeah, he goes back and, he's back to couches. He's, he goes to that, I don't know, bar or wherever that lady is playing her gig, and he's heckling her. It's just I don't know. I just didn't see any evidence or hint that it was going to change. Even that he was going to give up. They didn't even give that. Say, well, I'm just not going to be a folk singer anymore. He didn't do that either. It was just, this is my life and this is what I do. And
Well, he does get stymied by union buffoonery.
yeah, can't get on the ship or something.
No,
That threw me off a little bit.
They make it to where they got him coming and going, so he can't even escape, which I find hilarious.
So
Alex,
Yes.
you know codes. What does the guy say to him when he says, "'Cause I'm a communist"? And he says something.
Oh, I can't. I do. You know what? It didn't register. I know what you're saying. It's like
It's
I have
some
to
sort
go
of
back.
it's either Russian or Yiddish code,
some
right?
sort of word. Like, are you a? Yeah. It's a funny moment. No, whatever. I have to go back and watch that. But no, that was.
I looked it up because I was wondering.
What
and
now? What is it?
It's sort of an American offshoot brand of Marxism. So it's a very specific kind of communism.
What was the word
which
that
I think-
you used?
Oh, it was like shock and something or other. I wrote it down. A shockmanite, I think is what he said, or shockmanism.
Oh, you're right. My wife was wondering what that was. She's from Eastern Europe, and she's like, "What's that?" Never heard of that.
Yeah.
She didn't understand what that was.
Well, I
Neither
catch
did
it
I.
only to mean. I always catch it to mean that this is code. But
Circadian or something.
I've always been too lazy to find out what it meant. But I knew he's talking communist code.
Yeah, well,
Which is funny. I mean, there's two movies in a row with Hail Caesar and this where he's just like they're just knocking the communists, which I got no problem with. It's so funny what doofuses they are, especially if you've ever had to go to a union hall. Like, yeah, this is spot on. I don't know where they got this, but they know.
Yeah, I think it's also funny that it's like he's like, sorry, we can't help you with this, and he's like, why? Is it because I'm a communist?
Yeah.
And it's like he says it jokingly, but the
Right.
response is like, oh no, the communists don't have a problem being here.
Yeah.
It's like you're the one who's going to be having issues.
You're the one.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's a shockdomite. SHACHTMANITE. Shockdomite.
Huh.
Shocked.
Well,
we'll have to.
My
show
hat's
that.
off to both of you for looking. I
Yeah.
didn't look it up like the lazy
Shocked
butt
me.
I am, but I always laugh at that, and then especially when you couple it with Hail Caesar, like, man, they really hand it to the commies. Anyway, all right, well, let's move into the moment. Okay, any final words on thematics and meaning of it all?
Uh, I think Llewyn Davis does a great job on showing us the predatorial nature of the entertainment business, and I think
Yeah.
that's something that they explore in Buster Scruggs with Meal Ticket.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're yesterday's news.
Well, we're not
You know,
talking about Buster Scruggs.
I know, but I'm
unfortunately.
saying in this case, it's okay, but there is that because Llewyn Davis, he's based on Dave Van Ronk, who was like, even before Dylan arrived on the scene, he was the guy. In fact, the very last song during the credits, Green Green Road or whatever, that's the Dave Van Ronk version. He had that really deep, raspy voice. And he was a guy, he really was like a New Yorker through and through, barely, with like a short stint in California, pretty much stayed in the Greenwich, in the Village all his life. And, one of those guys that we thought he would be the one, but Dylan comes along. And in fact, I don't know if this helps, but Dave Van Ronk had an arrangement he came up with on House of the Rising Sun he was going to record, and Dylan stole it from him and recorded it on his debut and didn't tell him until after it was recorded. And apparently it created a lot of bad blood between the two. Who is this young upstart kid from Minnesota? And of course, Dylan goes into the stratosphere and Dave Van Ronk goes to communist meetings in the Village.
Huh.
Because apparently he was a red through and through.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Now you do.
Well, all right. So moving on. Performance.
Ooh.
This is rich.
Yeah.
I don't think, as we said, there's not a bad performance in the lot. Everybody's great, including Tron Legacy himself, Garrett Hedlund.
How about like the performances you didn't see coming?
So you want me to ask you that question? What
Yes,
performance
ask me
did you
that
not? What performance did you not see coming, Alex Robertson?
I gotta say, this second time around, or this last time around with No Country for Old Men, the importance of Tess Harper.
No.
As small of a part it is, how important she is to that world. And just in that final scene, when he's talking about the dream, and she says nothing. She has that look on her face.
Mm-hmm.
If it weren't for her, what would happen to Ed Tom Bell? Again, there's not a wasted performance. And, kudos to the Coen brothers and kudos to Tess Harper for taking a small part, which could be anyone else might throw it away like, yeah, I'm just here for the paycheck, but they make something out of it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
She's got substance in that movie.
The one that jumped out for me more than ever was Kelly MacDonald. I've always liked it, but this time I really sort of almost sided with Kelly MacDonald. Like, in the way the movie's almost about her, Like, she's
not.
She's the one who faces Anton Chigurh with the most reality. She has nothing to lose. She's lost everything. She doesn't want his BS.
And in a way, she's more brave than Carson Wells. Like, she doesn't
Absolutely.
bargain. She just
She's
says,
not
you're going to
begging.
do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
She doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
knew you. Yeah,
She says, I need to sit, and that's pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. And then you don't have to do this, mirrors Carson, but she presses him. She doesn't let him just.
She's like, but you don't.
Yeah, she doesn't let him.
Well,
laugh
his
her
final
off,
call, you can see that he's. No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What about Llewyn Davis? Well, wait.
Wait a second.
We're having
What's the
around the room.
question?
Go around the room. Go around the room. Favorite performance? Bert in No Country for Old Men, or performance that you didn't see coming. And wait. And before we, no. I'll let you. But we have to talk about Javier Bardem.
Yes.
We have to. But anyway,
That was
first,
who I was going to pick because it's just the hair, the look, you know, it was just, he was just, I guess it's like emotionless. I mean, even when he's, you know, broken up in the car accident at the end, or when he's shot, it's like, okay, you know, he kind of said, ow, you know, but that's about it. He doesn't, there's no happy, there's really not even anger. He's just, you know, this is the way it is, and this is
Don't
the way
you think
I
he
am, and
almost
this is the way it's
enjoys
gonna
the
be.
precision of it all when he's tending to his wounds? It seems like the look on Javier Bardem's a great actor, and if you looked on my Facebook page recently, I've been pushing. I'm like, he better win Best Supporting Actor for Dune 2, but in this, it's like, man, he takes this weird guy and his weird precision about everything to this level of ecstasy and
Wait.
complete fascination. When he's curing himself, he seems almost like he's enjoying it.
Well, yeah, and well, that ties back into the murder of the deputy,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like over the top.
No.
You know, it was like this subtle enjoyment. I don't know. At least that's what I thought.
No, the original guy they were gonna get is Mark Strong, or they're gonna get Javier Bardem. He was sort
Mark
of
Strong
waffling.
was
They were gonna
number
get
two.
Mark Strong, Mark Strong. You probably it's easy. He's in Shazam, or he was in Kick Ass. He was in Kick Ass, and he was in Shazam. He always played, and he was in Stardust. He played the bad guy in Stardust. He plays bad guys. He just plays. That's his thing. He plays bad guys. The only time he played sort of a good guy was in that Sacha Baron Cohen brothers movie, where he played a spy or whatever. But I just don't see it. I just think, that would have been kind of boring, you know. No offense to his boring character in Shazam, but it would have been boring compared to Javier Bardem. I just think Javier Bardem's.
Well, it would have been too spot on, as you would say.
Yeah.
You know, Javier, and for most of us American audiences, I mean, that was our introduction. Well, there was the movie he made with Julian Schnabel in 2000 where he played the Cuban poet.
Before Night Falls.
Before Night Falls. And that was his first Academy, and nobody knew who he was. But he was
I did, because I
you
watched
did.
hilariously Hamon in the 90s.
Okay.
When did he do Vicky Cristina Barcelona? Was that after or before?
I think it was after.
That was it?
I want to. Well, you know what? It's
I think
close.
it's before.
It's close.
Look it
You
up.
might be right.
Somebody, Bert, look it up. Javier
Look up what?
Bardem's career. Javier Bardem's career. Vicky Cristina Barcelona. He was making the rounds in America by the time No Country for Old Men came out.
Yeah, but I think, you know, and the funny thing is Anton Chigurh, he looks nothing like the Anton Chigurh in the book. In fact, the description, the person that comes to my mind is Wes Bentley. You know, the way they describe it. But it's perfect because he's almost an alien-like creature to begin with.
Wow, he looks like a vampire. He looks like
just-
Dracula, but
Well,
not in a stupid way. He's like Gus Fring, but better. You know, where I always think of Gus Fring
he
in Breaking
was.
Bad, like he's like a weird vampire guy lurking around. Javier Bardem is the most sinister. He is definitely one of the most sinister villains ever to be put on film. Like this guy.
Apparently,
is
a
scary.
number of American psychologists have rated his character the best psychopath in film history. If that's, you know, so credit due to because he just embodied everything that you would expect in a person like that. If they're God
Never
forbid,
raises his voice.
never,
No.
yes,
Which is so
never.
You don't know
That's
what you're
what's
talking
disturbing.
about.
You don't know, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that scene. That
Yeah,
scene is
yeah.
so tense. That's again because they beautifully set us up with the worst scene ever with killing the deputy. So every other scene is just wrought with tension of, is he going to kill this person?
Yeah.
When is he going to kill this person? You know?
The Barcelona movie
Vicky
was
Cristina
2008.
came right after. Yeah, it came right
2008.
after.
Right
Right
after.
after.
Okay, 2008. All right.
Right after.
It's all a blur at this point.
Yeah, but I think that was the benefit too. I mean, the great thing was he wasn't really a known quantity or you know, a known.
I didn't
entity
see
yet.
Before Night Falls, but I had known who he was. So I
And it's a very different performance.
Sure, but he was still
but
fairly popular in the early 2000s, right?
I think he was. I
For
mean,
some reason, I remember thinking, "Oh, Javier Bardem's in it." Like it's
Yeah.
not like and not because I'm, So what else was he doing? I don't know, but he was around.
he
Right.
was around.
And
Love in the Time
and
of
certainly-
Cholera, Goya's Ghosts.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I started loving the Time of Color on the plane or something. I didn't finish it, but yeah. And anyway, well, I think we should just go through. We should really just go through the big four in terms of the leads in all the movies.
Can I just say
Oh.
really fast my
Oh,
plug for Garret Dillahunt?
as the most surprising?
I thought that's most surprising. Is that the question?
That was Alex's question.
I don't know if I want to say
Okay.
if it's
Well, then
surprising
I
is the
stick
right
with Stephen
term.
Root, but not surprising just because I'm like, well, he's always awesome. But when I was most like, okay, then what are you talking about, Big Four? Then forget it. Strike me from the record. Big Four.
No, I just mean we can't close the podcast without acknowledging all the big four, as in Javier Bardem, Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin, and Oscar Isaac in terms of stars of the show. Because those three definitely share No Country for Old Men. They have equal time. They have equal importance.
Yeah.
They are Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, if you would. They're the trio to make that.
Okay.
So are you saying Garret Dillahunt, or no, not Garret Dillahunt?
No.
The other one.
Again, my three, I guess, surprising maybe is Barry Corbin and Stephen Root. But
Actually, yes.
anyway, out of those three, are we talking just No Country for Old Men, or are we putting it against Oscar Isaac?
No, we're not putting it against. We just need to. I'm actually backpedaling from my gun to the head theory because I can't with these two films. They're both excellent in their way. They can't compare to each other in a sense. I mean, I'm not gonna say one's better than the other because they both have great qualities. They're completely different. So on that one, it almost is stupid to say, "Oh,
Sure.
No Country for Old Men's better," because they're just not the same film, you know.
And again, I think it just takes away from both their brilliance to do that. But again, so Josh Brolin's awesome, and Javier Bardem is awesome, but Tommy Lee Jones is my favorite.
Boy, I got to go with Josh Brolin. I don't know. Javier Bardem.
Okay, Javier
Bardem's
is
so
the
scary.
revelation.
But Josh Brolin
Tommy
was a
Lee-
revelation. All three were even Tommy Lee Jones, who I was getting tired of at that point because of The Fugitive and the U.S. Marshals and all the things he was doing up to then. I was kind of and Men in Black. I was pretty much tired of Tommy Lee Jones.
If I had never seen him before in a film and I only saw No Country for Old Men, I'd be like, this guy. Just
Well,
the fact
yeah.
that, I mean, just a glorious performance that I just love to watch it.
It is. Yeah.
And none of his usual like pyrotechnic bullshit, just quiet and gorgeous. I just loved that performance.
Well, I think they were there, but the way he had them under control. I mean, I really thought when they get to Llewyn's trailer, what do we do? Gun up and out. And he does that. But the line following, like, aren't you going to pull your gun out? I'm following you. That was a very Tommy Lee Jones moment.
Yeah.
But, unlike in the past, I mean, it's a far cry from what he did as Two-Face, thank God.
Or even let's say Under Siege or any of it that he was just doing for paychecks and just and he looks bored in Under Siege. He looks like, all right, I gotta do something with this stupid movie I'm in, so I'm gonna just ham it up.
I gotta elevate Steven Seagal, Oh boy.
Well, and usually I don't think of Tommy Lee Jones as a physical actor, but I think about him taking off his hat and walking towards Kelly MacDonald at the motel, and I just think, God, what a cool move. I mean,
but all his breakfast eating scenes are really physical too.
They are.
Really embodies this sort of small town sheriff, sort of. You can see the fatigue in him.
Yeah.
You can see the fatigue in him asking for more coffee. He doesn't really enjoy any of it.
No, he's not enjoying reading the paper. He's not enjoying any of it, right? No. For sure. He's in no way. He looks like the world's saddest, wisest tree. Like his face is so. And I just.
And then when he has his most vulnerable moment with his uncle.
Yeah.
Just that great line about I always thought.
So it
when
is
I
his
got
uncle.
older-
Is it his uncle?
It is his uncle in the book. It is.
Offici-
It's his uncle. Yeah.
Ah.
Okay. And I didn't
Yeah.
remember
I
that
thought
at
God
all.
would. I
It's
thought
like,
God
okay.
would come into my life. You know, just the weariness and just the.
Well, I like the look on his face too, and I think it's a physical performance when he's across from Tess Harper.
Yeah.
Because he looks disappointed in himself when she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I can't plan your day for you,"
Yeah.
and
No, he
just-
feels like a coward.
he feels like a coward,
Yeah.
100%. And when he's telling that dream, he knows he's one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just.
Joe, let's let you talk for a bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So you
No,
get
it's fine.
2 questions. So what's the most surprising performance? A, had you seen these films before?
I had seen No Country for Old Men before. It's been a
What
long
did you think?
while.
What was your 17-year-old? How old were you in 2007?
Well, I think I saw it like a year later, so I was 18. I mean, I thought it was cool. That was about the extent of my my thoughts on it. It was bleak. It was a very interesting. I mean, I thought it was interesting, cool movie, but it was not something that I was really delving deeply into.
So on round 2, or is this your second time seeing it?
Yeah.
Who was the biggest surprise to you?
I mean, I do think that the biggest surprise was seeing Stephen Root, because I just did not remember that he was in the movie at all. And seeing him in this sort of villainous, played straight role is very, like, a little bit jarring, but not in a bad way necessarily. So I did think it was interesting seeing him like that.
Well, Stephen Root and J.K. Simmons really should do a movie together, because they're both really good actors who can go into comedy and who can play sort of doofuses like J.K. Simmons did J.K. Simmons walked away, in my opinion, with The Lady Killers. And it's strange. He's the kind of actor you'd think would be in all these other Coen Brothers movies, but he's not. But it seems like Stephen Root. Really, it's like, to me, it's not a surprise, but it is an interesting, the feathered hair, the big hair, the handlebar stash, the suit, the bolo tie, is that what we call it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bolo, yeah.
All of it's perfectly suited to the guy, and he embodies it perfectly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but all right, so second follow-up question. Javier, we haven't asked you about what your take on Javier Bardem and Tommy Lee Jones, and then we got to get to, all of us have to wax philosophical on Josh Brolin's big sort of comeback role.
I feel like the biggest question with Javier Bardem is, was he the real villain or was his hairstylist? You know.
But don't you think that's the testament to the belief? Their commitment is he makes that ridiculous haircut work and make it feel scary, like a Count Dracula hairdo.
He does an incredible job, and I think, like, for me, in terms of my favorite actors in there, I mean, I do like Josh Brolin. I think he does great, but I would put him third out of the 3 in the movie. I put Javier Bardem right at the front because, also for me, I'm currently teaching like an intro to psychology class, and we go over all the different mental disorders and things, and I'm like, that's a dead ringer for antisocial personality disorder. Like, and it's done so well. It's not overdone. It's not overacted or exaggerated in ways that you would find in, like, Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs kind of crazy or something. It's very subdued and unnerving.
But
be around.
what everybody makes fun of the hair, it is 1980. That hair was, I knew people with that hairdo. Mexicans in Vail had that hairdo. People had that hairdo. It's not, that's what I'm like, man, it's so funny how people freak out sometimes about a haircut. But the only thing that makes it interesting is it's so precise. Like the character itself, it's so perfect. It's almost, so that's what makes it laughable, because he does look like Prince Valiant. But that hair was, the sideburns and that length was not out of place in 1980 at all. You know, if you look at a yearbook, those butt parts and that hair length was, everybody had that in Vail and in Oregon, you know, and so I just find that like he gets a lot of heat for it, and he himself apparently, you know, we were listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with Josh Brolin, which sparked this whole thing because then I bought No Country for Old Men. You know, he said, so Joe Rogan was asking Josh Brolin, he's talking about that film, and he goes, yeah, Javier was really depressed, man. He goes, oh, why? Because he was so evil, having to deal with all that. And he goes, nah, man, that haircut. It's like, well, I guess you have to walk out in public with it in 2007.
I just assumed it was a wig or hairpiece. I didn't think it was
that's
his
his
hair.
hair. That's his hair.
Okay.
It's his hair.
Okay.
Well, his first reaction to getting it cut like that was, I'm not going to get laid for 2 months. So look it up. Apparently that was his, so.
But you know, when he gives that look of, it's just a coin, he goes, then otherwise it's just again, because that's what it is. And that big-eyed look, he looks scary. He scares me. I'm like, that's a scary face.
No.
He's terrifying.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. He's terrifying, and without ever saying it, like, I mean, one of the hallmarks of antisocial personality disorder is this idea that the world is kind of against them and cruel and unfair and all these different things. And I feel like this is an example of, like, that sort of mentality, but taken to the step of acceptance and, like, that's just the way that it is. Yeah. You know? And so, don't put this coin in with the others, you know? It's like the coin represents this guy's life, but it's also just like all the other coins. It's not important. Right. It's important. It might be important to you, and it should be, but it doesn't actually matter. And I feel like that's such an interesting, like, the way he kind of lives out that sort of philosophy is really interesting, and just not something that I see a whole lot in movies. Like, I like Tommy Lee Jones's performance. I do feel like there was maybe a slight typecast to the sort of role that he's given. But I feel like it works extremely well. Like if other roles kind of are similar, I feel like this one strikes much closer to the heart of like the roles that Tommy Lee Jones is meant for. Like it's very much this old, tired, but like also really trying to do some good in the world.
Yeah, you know, though it's
character.
It's I guess it must be Cormac McCarthy's book, you know, and it must be his commitment to it because it doesn't feel like the world-weary Agent K or anything like that. It doesn't feel like him sort of sleepwalking through a part. Yeah. He infuses it with so much emotion and like Roseanne says, physicality, where it just jumps out as just a great performance. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna go number 2 is Josh Brolin. I have to say that. I think Josh Brolin is so perfectly cast in that movie. And his fight with death is legitimate. He almost has the skills to win. Almost.
Yeah, I will say that. I'm just like,
so
it's
close.
So interesting in a sense, back to Llewyn Davis, where I'm like, God, he is so good at surviving that it does suck that they keep telling him, like, you can't do this. And when he really realized just like he can't, it does suck because he is so awesome at it.
Well, and that he is killed by in such a, I don't want to say random way, but like it's such a unsatisfying off-screen death.
Yeah, I love that.
Like
yeah.
it's like, oh, what's the last conversation he has? Like they're talking about beer.
But you know, I never realized, even though I sort of knew it subconsciously. But I never realized how important it is that his mother gives him away, or his mother-in-law gives him away. I never really made that connection until now. Like, yeah, but it was his mother whose big mouth gave it away. You know, so it's not as random as it seems.
Well, no,
I mean, there.
I say random. I mean, like there's clearly a good reason for why he dies. It's not
cinematically random.
Oh, it's,
like,
but it's
for sure. It defies all expectations because we're not like I wasn't even thinking about the mother-in-law before. It just that scene never even registered till this last time watching it. Going, oh, yeah, the mother-in-law. It all adds up. It doesn't. It's not what we expect. We expect this big showdown.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a Western. They're going to go out in the middle of town, and they're going to draw on the bad guy's going to fall down.
Right.
But just him bleeding on that shitty carpet is so much better.
Well, I don't know if you noticed though too, because it's like he's so resourceful up to that point. He really is a resourceful human being. I mean, that's what keeps him alive, keeps him a step ahead. And that one moment when he's walking back, and he sort of drops his guard with the young girl. He's not she's flirting. He's just being a nice guy. But if you see the movie again, right before we cut, they do that dissolve to Tommy Lee Jones driving up the road. You see the truck go by.
Sure. No,
Yeah, you see it, and he doesn't. He's back, because he's dropped his guard because when she goes, is that why you're looking for your wife? And oh yeah, I'm also looking for what's coming. And the one time he needed to look for what was coming, he doesn't see it coming.
On the other hand, when you see the carnage at the motel, he did some damage.
He did some damage, no doubt,
Which I still like. I'm like,
again,
that's still.
He came so close.
But I think
and so he was.
Josh Brolin really does embody that guy.
Yeah. He does. But Woody Harrelson.
Heath Ledger was the original choice. Heath Ledger would have been terrible.
No, I think it
would have been terrible.
No.
Wouldn't have been the movie, as far as I'm concerned.
And Woody Harrelson puts it best when they're in the hospital. It's like, look, you're just not cut out for this. And it's like it's whatever that killer instinct is. That's what separates you from an Anton Chigurh, because you're too nice of a guy. You really are a nice guy.
But it's not Anton Chigurh who kills him.
No, that's the irony.
Right.
And he drops his guard.
But I kind of disagree. I'm going to push back on that a little, because the scene right after that, he walks through the border patrol, and he said, he states what he did, 2 tours in Vietnam. And so you sort of have this glimmer of hope that, he actually does have He does have the ability to fight off Anton Chigurh, and what happens is he's undone by the stupidity of his mother-in-law. Yeah. And not the stupidity, just the naivete. She just has no clue what she's up against. So she just reveals where they are.
You don't
also,
see a Mexican in a suit.
That nice of a guy.
Yeah.
I love the way Carla Jean does describe him, just like he doesn't think he needs any help and he can take all comers. I love that we learn about him through Josh Brolin's physical presence and through her telling us about him in a lot of ways. Also, I think about him talking on the phone and then to his wife and then checking out that girl's ass.
Yeah.
I'm just this isn't some again, romantic idea. This is a guy who feels pretty confident in his ability.
Right.
And again, his ego.
For sure. It's his ego, right? It's his ego that does it. I mean, Alex says it. He takes his guard down because the woman feeds his ego, for sure. Yeah. Now in the book, I understand there's a bigger character for that woman.
She's a hitchhiker. Yeah, it's like an innocent young girl, almost like a younger version of Carla Jean in a way. I think that's why he takes to her. She's thumbing a ride to California, going to follow her dreams, and they just get caught up somehow, and then they're both gunned down. And and they have like a chapter devoted to the Mexican hitmen that set out to get him. So apart from that, I mean, the movie really is almost beat for beat the book, just cut down for time. But it is interesting. She is kind of I don't want to say she's a worldly young girl because she's out on her own, but she does have that sort of naive quality about her, and she gets caught up, through no fault of her own, just gets caught up in the crossfire. But then again, that's the whole, this movie really is a tragedy in many ways. It has the elements of tragedy. You've got the tragic figure through his own hubris, sets the wheels in motion.
Hubris, but he's also this act of mercy. What do you make? Well, let's give you a chance to weigh in on Josh Brolin. 1, 2, or 3. Not that better or worse, but is he a favorite or who's your favorite character?
He'd probably be number 2. I mean, like you've already said, they're all good, but the Javier still number 1 to me, and then Josh Brolin 2. But yeah, I don't know. He was totally believable in this particular role. I don't. Was this like his breakout role, or I don't know what he'd been in
No,
prior to
he
this.
he'd
I
been
don't know.
kicking around for. I mean, he was in Goonies. He was a bunch of movies.
Oh.
He
Oh
was
God,
in
he
a
goes
lot of
way
movies.
back. Yeah.
He was
Thrashing.
in
What?
Thrashing for sure.
Oh.
Everybody's favorite skateboard movie, Thrashing.
You know it.
Oh, didn't see it.
I
What's the
saw.
one? What was
I've
it?
seen it.
Flirting
I've
with
seen it.
Disaster or
I've seen
something?
Thrashing 3 times in my life, if you can believe it.
Woo!
It
Well,
was
I've
a
seen
video
Goonies
party
twice.
staple
Oh,
in 1988.
I see. Well, no, I mean it was good. He was just a, well, the way it was presented, the decisions he made and the roads that he chose, just were like, looking at it as an audience person, it's like, oh, what are you doing that for? And he goes, I mean, they're really the only reason he's, well, maybe not the only. I guess the first bad decision was to not look through the money and see if there was a tracer in there. And then the second one was to go back and give the guy water,
Right, but that's an act. What do you make of that, everybody? That's an act of mercy. That
Yeah, it is.
But he forgot about it, and it's like, oh, gee, I think he's still alive. How long has it
Well,
been?
he does his
I
best
don't
thinking
know.
right before he goes to sleep.
I guess.
Clearly.
Because the tracer
There
does.
ain't no way.
The tracer. Ain't no way.
I have a question. I mean, regarding the man in the vehicle. And he's saying basically, what is it? Cierra la puerta, close the door. There are wolves.
Because of the wolves.
Ain't
no
no
wolves.
lobos.
Yeah.
And then later we got Tommy Lee Jones like coyotes, which is different. Coyotes don't eat Mexicans. Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an odd moment, and I don't know if I can't remember if that came from Cormac McCarthy, but interesting that man fears the wolves more than anything else. Close the door. The wolves.
I
Well, was it metaphorical, or was it
a good
his own real
question?
thing?
That's there's a lot of foreshadowing for sure.
Yeah.
It's like
And
the
then
wolves had already descended, though. If it's a
have
metaphor.
descended in a way.
Right.
And are we to believe that he probably shot himself? I mean, when he goes back, and there's nobody showed up since, so
Right.
poor guy couldn't take the pain.
Yeah.
So,
But Josh, how could he shoot himself though? Does he have a bullet in his head?
if you look, you could see it's really quick. But when he looks in the car, you can see that the window next to him is shattered.
Yeah, there's like a
blood.
big
Oh,
hole.
that's right.
in
Yeah,
the
that's
window.
right. Yeah.
Well, he
Yeah.
took his.
But he took his weapons.
Well, he took his automatic rifle. He didn't take
Right.
anything else.
Right.
If he had, he probably had a sidearm. All good hitmen have, they're-
Right. No.
We should know that.
All right.
Movies taught
Well,
me
we need
anything.
to. I mean, there's so much to talk about the cast, but let's just move on to Oscar Isaac and heap some praise on that performance, which I'll just start us off. I think it's the most expressive work Oscar Isaac's ever done. Similar. He's not doing a lot of acting with dialogue. He's doing most of his acting with his eyes and just the sort of mental gymnastics he goes through in the clubs and with John Goodman. You see him trying not to talk or getting angry and then just being defeated without him ever saying a word. Thoughts, Burt Brown? You don't like his character, but you got to admit Oscar Isaac does a great job embodying it.
True. And I just had a thought when you were talking. It's like, it's almost like he knows he's unlikable, so he limits his talking or something. He limits his responses. He's like, well, I don't want to tick this person off or they'll kick me out of the car. Or I don't want to tick this person off or they'll, kick me off their couch or something to
Tell
that
me
effect.
I'm like King Midas's idiot brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the people he has a relationship with like that is a little different,
But he still is holding his tongue in check because he could.
because he still wants something from them.
Yeah.
So he's just like, well, I'm gonna take that, and not respond. He may not believe it, or maybe he does believe it. maybe he just, that's,
I don't think he
I am
believes
who I
it.
am type of thing. But
I don't think he believes it for a second.
But I
he's
think he's
better
just
than all of
working
them.
it. He says, well, he has to eat crow once in a while to get by. That's kind of how I interpreted that. But the performance, I can't think of any way to do it any better.
The Coen brothers couldn't find anybody until him. They were about to give up till he showed up. Joe Field, you look ready to talk. What do you think of Oscar Isaac? Best performance of Oscar Isaac's career?
Probably. Yeah, at least of what I've seen.
Better than X-Men Apocalypse.
I was just about to say a little bit better than Apocalypse. Little bit better. But I think that, that there is something that's kind of funny about his character where he is pretty unlikable, but I think he doesn't even really like himself all that much, and so it's kind of like he has to suffer along with the viewer for all the things that he's doing himself, which I think is sort of interesting in its way. I don't know. I think it's a good performance, and there is this sort of sense of like nothing goes right for him, and that he is kind of at the root of a lot of his own problems also. Like, I think of, like, for example, when he finds out that his box had been thrown out, and he's like, it's like, I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, he did tell her to throw out the whole box in the beginning, like early in the movie.
Yeah.
With no stipulations or anything like that. And now he's the one who's also freaking out about the fact that she threw out his very important licenses and things. And it's so funny because, I mean, it's sort of like when life isn't kicking him, he's kind of kicking himself. And making these different mistakes, and it's just he plays a very interesting kind of downtrodden, I mean, very grown-up Charlie Brown almost, of just falling from one misery into another, and nothing ever, seemingly going right. So
Don't you think
plays it off very
Don't you think
well.
it's so cute though that his nephew does the Etch-a-Sketch that says "Welcome"?
Oh, yep.
Uncle Llewyn. Like
Yeah.
there is still some value in him. Like he's, there's something about him that people still want to love. Yeah. All right. Roseanne, what do you got?
Again, I think Oscar Isaac is a tremendous actor. I know that he's made movies that maybe aren't the best, or they were, maybe beneath his talent or whatever, but I feel like I only maybe think, well, I don't only think it because of this movie, because I liked him before this movie, but I do think he truly does fulfill his potential in this movie. And just the fact that when he like heavily like hoods his eyes when he's trying to like mask his anger, and that dinner party scene with the hilarious professor and the whatever fungs when he freaks out. I don't think it's just ego. I think he is feeling like resentful of the fact that he is at the mercy of these people's charity.
Yeah.
And I feel like you see that he conveys that so beautifully. Like his emotions and the way he conveys just the most nuanced emotions in this film truly are something. Like you can see his anger when he's sitting, even when he's like smoking his cigarette and he's like, Harry James, that was pretty on the beat. And just the fact that he's heckling and needling all the people already.
Yeah.
It's like, first of all, I've been that asshole. and second of all, he pulls it off just beautifully.
I love how Ethan Phillips tries to wipe it all clean, like it was all this emotional distress over Mike. And it's not. It's not whatsoever. It's because he couldn't stand his wife doing, muscling in and treating him like a trained monkey.
Yeah.
And
He does say it
Yeah.
plenty of times. It's interesting because he's like, I don't have my guitar, enough times where he wants to be acknowledged. I don't think he does in that moment. I think he's feeling shitty enough about the situation where he doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I do think his response is kind of honest. I think it's, what's his name, Gorfine, who doesn't let him be honest.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He's trying to, they want to sort of passive aggressively keep the situation as is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex,
Yes.
thoughts?
Well, I think it helped that Oscar Isaac can play the guitar and also sing.
Yeah.
Because I think it added a whole new level to that, and I do enjoy good music. And I wasn't really, I was interested in Oscar Isaac before that, but this was the movie where, it was like a breakout. Like, wow, he took this to a whole new level. Because the first thing I ever saw him in was Drive, or Driven.
Drive.
Drive with Carey Mulligan. And then Deus Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Well, not the version I saw. And I'll forgive him for the Star Wars movies, and thank God I've never
wasn't
seen.
Ex Machina after Llewyn Davis?
Yes, I don't know.
It was after.
See, I saw that before I saw Llewyn Davis.
Really?
Yeah, for me, because I didn't. I think I saw it on your recommendation. And I think what's great about his performance is the really likable part of that character comes out in the music.
Yeah, well, that's
when he sings. What's the song? "The Death of Queen Jane."
Yeah.
I mean, that alone is worth the price of admission. I mean, he just, it is a soulful rendition. I've never heard the song before, but it's like he really owned that song, not just as Llewyn Davis, but as Oscar Isaac. And I guess, I don't know, because it is a character that, by all appearances, should be unlikable, but he does find ways to get us to like his friends. We find excuses to forgive him. Oh, it was just in the heat of passion there, Llewyn. We still like you.
Well, again, I'm with Roseanne. I think everybody he rails against sort of deserves it, for sure.
It's possible.
But people don't like that. Society doesn't like it. I mean, okay, the one who doesn't deserve it is Grandma Moses.
Grandma Moses.
Grandma Moses
definitely doesn't deserve it.
Right. Right. Well, she got her revenge, so to speak.
Sure.
Whether she knows it or not.
Whether she knows it or not, he's a loving provider.
Where's your corncob pipe, Betty? Sorry.
Well, about the only person that does push back on him that I think almost puts him in his place is John Goodman.
Oh, yeah.
When he threatens him with a cane and he's like, I'd watch it if I were you, boy. And he gives that whole speech about, I've dabbled in the black arts.
Yeah, no, John.
Amazing.
John,
Amazing
we got again. John Goodman's a supporting player. He's not on equal footing, but I think
amazing.
It's John Goodman's best, by far his best role ever.
Well,
Even
the
better
Coen
than
brothers
Walter.
just have
Walter,
yeah.
We all love Walter, but I think John Goodman and Llewyn Davis was such a surprise.
Well, I think at some point you should probably have a podcast just on the Coen brothers' John Goodman performances, because they're also they're different, and he does what needs to be done.
His only great work is in Coen brothers movies, in my opinion.
You're probably right. I can't.
I don't think he's very good in anything else. He's, that same year, I think Flight came out, or no, Flight came out in 2015. When did Flight come out? Anyway,
I don't know, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was lousy, and not that it was his fault. It was Robert Zemeckis playing sympathy with the devil every time he showed up. But anyway, Llewyn Davis was like, wow, he's so good, and then he's just sort of, he's just a sitcom actor in this movie. So yeah, I don't know. Walter's damn good, but I think Llewyn Davis was. I was just shocked at
Brolin Turner, come on, just like.
Yeah.
Jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, not the George, Washington Bridge.
What's the line about? Did you bring your dick? What's the
Oh
line?
my God! Well, I didn't know what to do with the cat, so I brought it along. I was like, "Did you bring your dick along too?"
What are you queer? I mean, God Almighty.
But it keeps
Folk-
coming. Like
plus,
it's
yeah,
very sweet.
I'd throw myself off a bridge too if I had to listen to Jimmy play Jimmy Crack Corn all day.
Well, the way he just mocks the structure of folk music.
All the notes.
G, G, C, D.
Ukulele.
Ukulele.
No, it's really funny, and it's this concentration of 5 minutes of just perfection, So I don't know. I don't know if it's better than Walter, but it's definitely like
it's memorable. It's certainly memorable.
It's eye-opening.
It does. It's no, and it's not a gimmick.
No.
No,
He seems
at
like a gosh darn honest to goodness heroin addict.
Yeah, no,
And
he's
a jazz singer,
his own
or a
tragic
jazz
figure.
performer.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Even his constant heroin nodding off is just, it's good stuff. Anyway.
All right, Joe, thoughts? John Goodman? No.
I mean, he is such a funny, odd, larger-than-life character that appears in this otherwise pretty bleak kind of world, and is, I don't know, John Goodman was hilarious.
But he's bleak too. He's part of the bleakness.
No, he is bleak too, but he's bleak in a very loud and outspoken kind of way. That's just such a. I mean, just adds to the sort of bizarre absurdity of everything that Llewyn is going through.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just kind of like one of these big things with a lot of the Coen brothers movies is like this sort of absurdity of life. Like, it's weird stuff happens, sometimes it doesn't mean a whole lot, or doesn't seem to mean anything, and we have no control over it, but at least we can laugh about it.
Yeah.
Or at least we as audiences can laugh at the people who are experiencing it.
Just because the interactions with people, just
But
the
it's
absurdity.
he really represents the sort of musical war between different art forms, which I think is just hilarious. I mean, it's those stuff we never think about in terms of the snobbery involved, and it's just so funny. And again, it's just he's just pummeling Llewyn Davis the whole time.
Well, I mean, there is a certain
also
snobbishness.
being a fantastic blowhard. Him talking about playing pool and just like, how do I know you fooled me?
Yeah.
He's not the hustler.
Yeah.
So while he's capable of, it's just, I need to shut up because it's just a good performance.
Do you want to give any praise to Carey Mulligan? Because I think she's great in it.
I want to give all the praise to Carey Mulligan.
As always,
The fact that it's such a small little part that she deeply committed to, and she's a super interesting character in the small bits, and that's entirely her strength because she can play. Let's face it. I mean, she is a really versatile actress, and I don't know if she gets enough credit for it. Anyway,
she's a movie star. She proved in The Maestro.
I know.
I mean, for her to elevate that role.
But she is a movie star, but she's also an amazing actress.
Oh, that's what I mean. I mean, she can be both. It's like here's somebody that both. She can embody that role.
Well, she's definitely not a showboat.
No, and I still think
Llewyn
she should have
Davis
won
is
Best
one of those
Actress,
parts where she sort of gives. She just does. She shows up, gives everybody what they need, and leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And you just respect her for not trying to make it more than it is.
Yeah.
But
isn't that sort of the way she does it in her other roles?
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess in terms of we got to finish up now. We're definitely at the 2-hour mark. In terms of direction, just
who was the better director?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
Ethan or
what
Joel?
What job did he do a better job? But what's the most surprising? Let's go back to that surprising question. What's the most surprising choice about Llewyn Davis as compared to No Country for Old Men? What do you think? Because I think they deepened their palette even further. No Country for Old Men was a huge step up. Llewyn Davis may not be a more spectacular movie, but it feels rich visually. It just feels richer visually. Am I right? Anybody have those thoughts?
I think so. Again, I think No Country for Old Men is gorgeous and amazing and all these things, but I think that was already potentially on the horizon for them. I don't think Inside Llewyn Davis was exactly. Like, even if you look at Alex, your favorite, Miller's Crossing, I think what a way more sophisticated looking film in terms of like an era for a film that Llewyn Davis is compared to Miller's Crossing.
I probably wouldn't argue with that. No.
I just think because of, I think it marks I think No Country for Old Men definitely does mark their maturation, and Llewyn Davis sort of shows us what else is possible. And that's another reason why I love True Grit, because I think they continue on.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, I think it'd be interesting to come back in another year and see if our top 5 have changed, because I have a feeling they will with the Coen brothers, because I think I that's the beauty of a Coen brothers film. I mean, there's so much packed in to most of their movies.
Well, I liken it now to when I had a Star Wars. Well, my Star Wars figure collection as a kid. When I first had like 4, I could easily say, "Oh, well, Boba Fett is my favorite." But when I had 50, and I would set them up, and I'd say, "Is Boba Fett still my favorite, or is Han Solo?" Like, you sit there, and I just can't choose a favorite anymore. There's so many good films, and I'm constantly rotating as to what's the better film. And they're all so damn good.
It depends on your mood, I guess, as to which one you like that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Except I just have to throw it out there, as much as Roseanne's going to purse her lips. Drive Away Dolls is one of the worst films I've ever seen. And that was Ethan Coen on his own, and it's just a piece of crap. Like, just an unbelievable piece of crap.
Never heard of it.
So it's unbelievable that they could even just fall that far. And
it's not they. That's why it's not important to this conversation. You keep saying they. It's not the same beast.
Don't think for a second he didn't show his brother. And his brother didn't show him Macbeth. You know.
I wouldn't show it to anybody. That was a disappointment. Boy, I mean, I'm sorry, but that was a...
No, but...
Anyway...
Okay.
Anyway,
I know you don't want to talk about it, but I have to. I'm compelled to mention that, like, boy.
Anyway, the other humans on the panel have yet to answer your pertinent question.
All right, go answer your question.
Answer your question.
No, I answered it. Bert, again, I don't know. What do you think? Did they mature between No Country for Old Men and Llewyn Davis? Do you feel that? Did you notice it? Did you care?
No, I just think they're 2 different movies. I mean, I thought it was just as good, but they're just 2 different movies. You know, I didn't think one was direct. I mean, I don't know enough about direction, but to me, it's like, oh, that was good. Yep, that was good too. You know, so.
Joe, were you feeling it? Sorry, Bert. Not to
That's
cut you
okay.
off,
I just didn't notice.
Running out of time.
Yeah.
Feeling the difference, feeling the maturity, feeling the expanse.
I mean, I don't know. I think I don't know if I'm feeling too much different in terms of how they've matured as directors, but I think that Llewyn Davis it's much more. There's a lot more intimacy, I think, to it than there is to No Country for Old Men. Like, a lot of No Country, it's like we have, you're seeing these characters and you're really getting a lot of their facial expressions, their just visual, their acting, essentially. And a little bit about what they're saying, but for the most part, it's like we're kind of still a little bit removed from the situation. Llewyn Davis is like, we're really following this one guy and seeing him kind of, I mean, at the beginning, like moving from, one rat hole to another, basically, all these different apartments, couch surfing. And so many, kind of cool shots of like, oh, he's in this super narrow, alleyway and he can't pass by Adam Driver, with, holding a box.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the kind of tight, difficult situation that they're going in, that's going on, or even the question of like, oh, do you want to drive this car? It's going off to Chicago, and it's like, whose car is it? Like it's not going to drive itself out there. But I think that it's just done as a much more, I want to say it's a more intimate movie, in the sense of it's like we're really trying to get into this one person, and we're really kind of experiencing the difficulties of this one person versus this larger tale of three different people all trying to kind of vie with or against each other in different ways.
And I think emotional intimacy is exactly right, and definitely how the Coen brothers changed. Because I don't think emotional intimacy was their strength for a long time. I think they didn't want to seem sentimental or whatever, and they're still not sentimental, and yet their characters are more emotional. So I think, anyway, I agree with you. That's all I'm saying.
Alex?
Yes?
Did you detect any maturity between the two films, or is it just two different styles?
Boy, good question. Well, to quote Ed Tom Bell, yes, age flattens you. And I don't mean that the movie is flat, but almost as if they've come to a point where, I don't want to say it's effortless, but the movies do have an effortless feel about them. And Llewyn Davis especially. I mean, especially when you consider the fact that it's a movie that apart from the cat, it doesn't really have a plot. That was one of the brothers saying, well, the reason why we brought the cat in was because it kind of gave it a plot. But the movie didn't have a plot, almost like The Big Lebowski, like this circular story that, I don't know if it's a cautionary tale. Again, I go back to Groundhog Day, or maybe even further back. What is it? The myth of what was the Greek figure that has to push the boulder up the hill?
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus. Thank you. Right. Just this futile attempt of this guy who's trying to, and maybe that's a common theme in Coen brother movies. You have these characters that think, I don't need your help. I can do this on my own. I'm that good. But yeah. The short answer is, yeah, there's a maturity. There's definitely a maturity. And I think, and again, I know we're getting a little ahead of myself. I think it carries over into Buster Scruggs. Mm-hmm. And now I can't wait until they decide to get back together again and make another movie.
Not going to be for another year or so, that's for sure.
Probably, but so, maybe they're...
No,
uh-oh, what are you saying?
Ethan has another lesbian exploitation film up his sleeve, so we got to watch that first before...
I wonder what he's thinking. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway.
All right, well, I guess this is a sort of silly question, but would you... Bert, I'll start with you. Would you not recommend either of these films?
No, I would recommend both. Maybe No Country for Old Men I might recommend more, because I thought it was more interesting to me. But the other one wasn't bad. It was just not necessarily my number one go-to cup of tea type movie, but it was still good. So
Joe?
No, I would.
Oh, very good. Joe, would you recommend them both?
No Country to Anybody, Llewyn Davis to a few.
Roseanne? Both? To everybody?
So I'm answering not if I wouldn't recommend them, but if I would recommend them.
Doesn't matter. What would you recommend? Is there limitations to the recommendations of these films?
I've told everybody to watch these two movies anyway. So the cat is out of the bag.
And
it's an Akron.
No, Alex, would you recommend these films? Would you recommend these films?
Unequivocally, I would. No. I wouldn't even. Again, it's like if you consider yourself a cinephile, a film buff, a lover of movies. Yeah,
how about your Garden Variety Patch Adams Fast and the Furious tour? Would you recommend?
Yes, in the hopes of saving them. Brother, I have the answer for you. Have you, the Coen brothers died for your sins, brothers. So, yes, I would. I would.
All right.
If it would disabuse them from those movies, I would, yes.
Well, very good. All right. Well, that wraps it up, everybody. Thanks for listening. It was a long one today, but that's fine because I don't have time to do another one for another few weeks. So, thanks
Do a
a million.
two-parter.
Nosferatu!
Nosferatu's coming up. Yes, absolutely.
Christmas Day.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What about Moana 2?
After Wicked.
All right.
Thank you.
Follow and like
Thank
us.
you.
I love you out in Germany. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Fabulous Film and Friends. Copyright 2024, a Bel Air Films production.